like this, so he just forgets. And if he gets too tight and you want him to loosen up, just tap his little hand, and he should release. If he doesn't, then just move it just a little bit. So we're trying to teach him that the tap means to loosen up, and so you can kind of help us train him with that. Dash is still a baby. He's just 8 months old. He's full of cuddles and loves.
Oh my goodness. You just checked off bucket list, man.
You see those sharp teeth in there too?
I do.
Sometimes you can hear when he opens and closes his mouth, you can hear just a little bit of a squeaking noise, and that's his teeth rubbing together. It kind of grinds my gear. It's like kind of nails on a chalkboard type sound.
Do they prefer to be petted anyway, or does it matter?
Dash, not so much. He's our second baby, so we're trying more so with him to get him acclimated to all different types of touch. Because some people get real excited when they're holding the sloths and they forget, and they'll start doing the cat scritches or going up backwards, and some of them don't really prefer that. And so with Zoe, she was our first baby, and with her, any first signs that she started showing that she didn't really like her belly being touched or her sides being touched. Oh, you got a chin lick. Oh my goodness. When she started showing us that she didn't like those places, we just completely avoided it and was like, okay, that's all you, don't want to make you uncomfortable. And we never worked with her on that. And so because of that, as she's gotten older, she still does not like her sides of her belly being touched, doesn't like the cat scritches or her ears being messed with. So she's really particular about how she likes to be pet. But with Dash, he's our second baby, and with any second, child, you tend to fall down a flight of stairs, you'll be like, all right, get up, you'll be all right, and go on with it. So with him, we're more so trying to acclimate him, while he's eating and is happy and content. We'll rub under his chin and rub around his ears, and, kind of as much as it grinds my gears to go upwards against the hair, I'll do that just a little bit, just to get him used to all different types of touches. Because with Zoe, we always tell him, just go straight down, she doesn't like it any other way, and then still some people forget and they just, go upwards. But with him, he's a little bit more used to all different types of touches. But they do all have their little quirks, their specific veggies that they like and different things that they do. When Zoe wakes up from a nap, she's got these little puffing noises that she makes, and it's like, oh, you're waking me up. Go out here and get the lovin's.
Was he born here?
No, so we don't breed the sloths here on the farm. Both Dash and Zoe came from a breeder that has been doing it for over 30 years. He's actually a doctor of veterinary medicine, and he has, over 30 years of experience with sloths doing research and all things sloths to know just what to do. And it takes a lot of work and effort into these guys, especially if you're going to think about having babies. So they both came from that facility, and he actually there clicker trained his mothers to know that when she hears a little clicker noise, she gets a little bit of a treat, whether it be banana or special food that she likes. And then the breeder will borrow baby for about 10-15 seconds and then give baby right back to mom. That time will slowly increase, just a little bit longer and a little bit longer as the baby gets older. So by the time that they're weaned of the mother's own choosing, of around 4 or 5 months old, they're used to being upwards to 30 minutes to an hour a day. And so they're conditioned from a very young age to enjoy this. And not all of them end up enjoying it. So they go through a final ambassador test, which means that given the opportunity between doing something else that they enjoy, whether it be a specific basket or a hammock or a certain crook in the tree that they like to hang out in, that they would rather come onto a person. So both of our babies passed that final ambassador test, meaning that they genuinely enjoy being held by people and would rather be held by a person than do something else. But the babies that don't pass that test and would rather just chill on their own and not go to somebody to be held will go to a facility that doesn't require, so much hands-on experience like this. And they would just be, observed from a distance and handled for, just a little bit.
I think he went to sleep.
Yeah, he does. Pretty quickly he will fall asleep on people. He takes all the naps.
How old is he?
8.5 months.
And how big are they when they're born? Are they like
About the size of your hand, yeah, and maybe even just a little bit smaller than that because I've got long fingers. But, yeah, they are very, very small. But something kind of interesting about the mothers is that they don't have the ability to store their milk production. So it's only produce and provide, basically. When the baby starts to nurse, she will get that. They don't have a milk letdown sense like we do, and like a lot of other mammals do. So as soon as they get that response of the nursing, their body will produce it immediately and supply it for them.
Wow.
So they don't have the means to store the milk like that.
I took a bunch of them, but I'll take more for you.
Your nails are really pretty.
Thank you. I was looking at yours a second ago too. They're pretty too.
Yeah, before these, I had a hot pink set on, and then I, like, don't mess me out, but totally forgot that I was supposed to be in somebody's wedding. And like the week before, I was like, oh, she probably doesn't want hot pink nails with her blue dress.
Oh,
for the
right.
So I went and changed them.
I hate having like my toenails not done, and I forgot I painted them like hot pink because that was the only thing I had, and then I had to wear heels, and I was wearing a black dress, and I was like, oh, that stands out so much. I removed them after that just because they looked so bad, but other than that, I always try to keep them white, good lord.
Yeah, I feel like that's what a lot of people go for.
Yes.
Just the neutral white for the toes.
I hate them not being done though,
Yeah.
it's so bad. How long have you been working here?
I've only been here for about 3 weeks now.
Really?
So yeah, I'm wanting to go to vet school, and so I've been down here a lot. I ride with a large animal vet that comes down here. He's actually coming today to do all the vaccines of horses and everybody.
Okay.
But I rode with him for like 2 years before I started working here. You know, so I was used to all the people down here and knew all the animals and everything. So it wasn't that big of an adjustment. But like I said, I wanted to get into vet school, and I applied last year. Got an interview with UT, which is my dream school, but didn't get accepted. So I'm still waiting to talk to the dean about, you know, what were my pros and cons of my application and
Yeah.
everything. But I'm thinking that it's probably has to do with the fact that I didn't have any exotic experience, other than like, you know, hedgehogs and, you know, mice and stuff like that people would bring into the clinic occasionally. But where I worked, it was mainly just cats and dogs. So I'm hoping with this experience with the, you know, title of sloth keeper, I
Yeah,
feel like
right.
that would look pretty good on an application. So
Agreed.
yeah.
I hope they take you, that's great.
Excited.
That's super exciting. I wanted to be a veterinarian for the longest time, but just,
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
it is a lot of work, and I don't understand science very well,
Yeah.
so we had to change major pretty
Yeah.
quick. But, I mean, title of sloth keeper though is, stands out in a resume, for sure.
That, and I forget the fancy name that he came up with it, but I'm also trying to keep track of all of the vet records for all of the animals, and we have over 150 animals here.
Really?
So, yeah, but he had some elaborate name for it, and I forget what he called it, but I feel like that'll sound pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
On an application.
That's a big word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the sloth from in here. I don't know if you can move, but you can
So,
see.
do they get along well? Do you
So
put them together?
sometimes Flash will get a little bit curious if we have Zoe's door open. Flash will kind of hang and try to look in there and see what's going on and what, you know, because it's just a little bit of a new environment. He's never been in her room before. He'll kind of hook on over there, and then Zoe, she'll start really climbing over there and like trying to reach out, trying to get to him to figure out what he is. And then Flash is just like, nope, I'm just looking. I don't need interaction. But, and then same thing when they're out here, a lot of times we'll be feeding Zoe sitting down, and Flash will be up hanging from that branch, and he'll extend down, just hanging on by his back feet, and kind of go down looking, because he's wanting our attention for us to give him more food. But Zoe sees that as an opportunity to give him a little high five, and she'll reach up and like lock the claws for a minute, and he's like, no, that's not what I'm looking for.
She's a lover.
Yeah.
She's trying to.
So they are very solitary animals in the wild. It's really rare to see two sloths in the same tree.
Wow.
If you do, it's either because they are about to mate, have just gotten done mating, or it's a baby and a mother that are separating. They tend to pick their own trees, and they'll stay in that tree most of the time the rest of their lives. If it's a female, she'll stay in that tree unless she weans her baby and she feels like she has to go to a different tree. Now, it's not always that the mother will wean the baby. Sometimes the baby weans itself. If the mother's not producing milk anymore and she doesn't have the means to do that, then the baby's just kind of like, well, peace out, I don't know why I'm hanging out here anymore.
Yeah.
So they don't feel the need to hang out all the time with their sloths. And a lot of animals, like, you know, you hear of names for a group of animal like a herd or a flock. There is no name like that for a group of sloths. sloths because they don't exist.
Man, I could do this all day.
Oh my gosh. She's been talking about this forever.
Yeah.
She's been so excited.
How long have you had it booked for?
Not very long. I've been talking about it. I just haven't booked it until
Yeah.
I knew which were from outside of Memphis.
Oh, okay.
And so I saw you all on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And I was because I thought the closest one to us was Hattiesburg, which is probably a little closer, but I don't know that you could actually hold them. And then the Memphis Zoo just had something, but you can't hold them. They can't guarantee you hold them either. So I was like, I'd rather
Yeah.
just drive and actually get to
Yeah.
really hold them.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people on our lives that only watch for just a few seconds, they're kind of skeptical and sometimes put a little bit rude comments in there like, you're not supposed to hold sloths, you're harming the ecosystems that live on their back, and it's terrible, you shouldn't have these in captivity. And I get where they're coming from, because the conservancy agencies where these guys are native to, in Costa Rica and Guatemala and places like that in the rainforest, it is their job to tell people, don't touch sloths, don't hold sloths, don't take sloths, don't touch sloths, don't
Right.
hold sloths, because it is a major issue that they're having down there in places that they're native to, is that when a cruise ship will come aboard and get off, and a lot of people will get off to go explore the rainforest, and do little adventures and things, the natives that live there will go out, and their goal is to find a young sloth or even a baby sloth on the mother's back, take that and go present it to the people that are getting off the cruise ship to try to make a quick buck. A lot of times if they don't find a baby that's a little bit more docile, and they end up with an older one that's a little bit more feisty, they will pull the teeth of those sloths so that they can't bite people. Another thing that wild sloths have is a whole ecosystem on their back. They do have moss and algae that grows on them, as well as moths that live in their fur called the sloth moth. That's really important to their health and that they need on their back. And so if you mess that up, that doesn't look the best in picture. And so a lot of times what the natives will do, will scrub all of that off and get that algae and everything off of the sloth. They don't really understand that that's going to completely, it's detrimental for them. After something like that is done to a sloth, they virtually only have a few days to live after that point. The moths are very important to their health. So it is a big issue that they're having down there. Sometimes they will book, encounters where you go out and just look from a distance at the sloths in the wild, and that's completely fine. But taking a sloth from its natural habitat and bringing it to somewhere that it does not belong is very detrimental for them, and they don't have a long life after that. But with the sloths that we have here, they have been bred from generations upon generations upon generations in captivity to do this and to serve as ambassador animals to hopefully help their relatives that are in the wild facing so much of the natives going out and ripping them out of trees and things.
Yeah.
Because it's their goal to serve as education animals. And so the guy that we got Dash and Zoe from, the one that's been doing it for over 30 years, he got his Sloth Zero, the one that started it all, from the rainforest that was injured and could not be returned to the rainforest. It was an injury that was significant enough that she could live in captivity with some adjustments, but if she were to have been returned to the rainforest, would not have been able to survive. So that's what started it all. None of these sloths have been taken from the wild and brought in and tamed to this point. That's not going to happen. You're not going to take a feral cat and bring it in. It's going to take a long time to get them used to it, and they're still going to be very secluded and distant cats. So you can imagine this is basically the difference between holding a inside cat and a feral cat. It's just it's not going to work out. So you can see that these guys love this. This is what they are conditioned to do. This is what they enjoy doing, and they serve to be education for the public of what they're facing down in places that they're native to.
I had no idea any of that stuff was happening. It's so sad.
And a lot of people just aren't aware of how the natives have gotten those sloths, because obviously they don't present it as what it actually is, that they've taken it from the rainforest and have given him a bath to get all of that off and everything. They present it as, oh, I've had this for years, he was injured, I brought him, saved his life and everything. And in reality, that sloth has just been in captivity for a few days and is so run down and exhausted from being handled that it's just got no fight left in it to act feral. And so those sloths do not, unfortunately, they don't make it that long. So I don't blame the people for getting on the lives and kind of bashing us because they don't listen to the whole spiel.
Yeah.
But that's what these guys are here for, is to educate the public about that, about the issue that they're facing there.
Are sloths endangered?
They aren't yet. Our hope is to keep it that way. And
Yeah.
so the two-toed sloths is what we have here. Their diets are a lot more variable. We can change it and manipulate it to where they can have veggies that actually grow here in America. But the three-toed sloths, they have a really strict diet they can only eat the leaves of the Sarcopia trees. That's what grows in the rainforest. So to own a three-toed sloth, you basically have to have a private jet to fly back and forth from the rainforest getting those leaves.
Yeah.
So it's pretty uncommon to see a three-toed in captivity. But they are working in Florida on developing some groves of the Sarcopia trees. They haven't had great success with that yet, but we're hoping that if they do and they can successfully get those growing and thriving down there, that we would be able to eventually start implementing the three-toed sloths and trying to get them at a stable population.
So I've got one at 2 with the bigger one, I think, I guess.
Okay,
At 2.
So
that's probably
It's
what
just
it is
me.
then. Okay.
Yeah, it's just me too, but, I imagine that he probably won't live like this.
Yeah, so it's with, yes, at 2, that's with Zoe. And, so she's in there, she's still lovable, she still holds on to you just like this, unless she's hungry, then she's a little bit distracted. But she's the one that I was talking about that's a lot more picky about how she likes to be touched.
Okay.
So just nice slow pets down her back and the other one just below her bottom. And then sometimes if we get too close to her sides or her belly or messing with her arms and stuff like that, she'll let you know, she'll start kind of clawing at you and being like, hey, I don't really love that. Then you just give her a few seconds to kind of get over it.
It's my time up. Is it time? Your
Almost,
turn?
we started just a little bit late, so I'll give you just a few more minutes. And that was my fault, I looked at the schedule and just saw Zoe, and then last minute I was like, oh, it's Dash.
Do you feel fulfilled, Mom?
I mean.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so if y'all were closer to Memphis, I would be like, hey, I can come work here.
Oh my gosh.
And something pretty cool about my job is that we stay pretty booked with our encounters, and they stay on a pretty strict schedule. They know when their encounters are supposed to be. And if they don't get somebody booked for that slot and I don't have anything better to do, I'll just go in there and hang out with her. So I'll get Zoe down and have an encounter for a little 30 minutes by myself. And that's because they're a lot like people. They like to have routine schedules. They get to know their routine, and if you mess with it, then it kind of messes with them. I like to know what time my alarm's gonna go off in the morning, and if I forget to set it and I get up late to work, then I'm a little bit upset.
Yeah.
I like to know what my routine's gonna be. And so some places offer sloth encounters as a drop-in encounter. And you really have to research those places before you book with something like that, because if the facility's open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., the sloths don't know anytime between there when people are gonna come in and interact with them. And since they sleep so much, they really need breaks in between there to do sloth things and just take naps and digest their food.
Yeah.
So we're very guarded of the time that we get to spend with our sloths and the time that we allow others to spend with them.
Hey, John?
You think that would help us?
Mhm.
Can I help you?
He would've come if you wasn't on call.
There was supposed to be a candle encounter
I don't care what
at
Izzy says, Izzy would love this. I think she
here.
does. My other daughter, we went to the aquarium yesterday and then this today, and she was like, I'm not going. She's 15.
Well, get
The
it
aquarium
figured out.
was amazing. The Georgia aquarium, oh my god.
Yeah.
It was amazing. No words.
Cause we've been to the Chattanooga aquarium, and it's beautiful too,
Yeah,
but I had never seen a whale shark, so I was like, I wanna see a whale shark.
yeah.
And Chattanooga doesn't have belugas, but they have
Or
belugas there,
dolphins.
or dolphins, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff there.
We've seen, but I had seen dolphins and belugas
Yeah.
before from somewhere, was it maybe Florida
Did
or
you go to SeaWorld?
SeaWorld,
Mm,
which we don't go to anymore.
yeah. But you can see how much of a darker chocolatey brown he is. As they get older, they'll start to grow into their adult fur and it'll get a lot lighter, and they'll really only get that, keep the dark brown like that up on their heads.
Huh.
So Zoe, when you go to see her, she's a lot more of a light cream color, and then Flash, our old man, he is really creamy, milky color.
Special. Just so special.
But sloths in the wild, so we talked about how they have moss and algae and everything like that that grows on them. And they also have the moths that live inside of their fur. So it is an entire ecosystem. To be an ecosystem, you have to have something living and breathing, and that's the moths. And so it's a symbiotic relationship, meaning that both parties benefit. So not only the sloths, but the moths as well. And so the moths benefit by once a week when the sloth comes down to use the bathroom. They always use the same tree, the same side of the tree, to the same pile that they did the week prior. And that's because that allows the moths to climb down off of the sloth, lay their larvae in that dung pile, and then climb back up onto the moth, or the sloth before they come back into the canopy of the rainforest.
Wow.
And then a week later, when he comes back down to that same pile, the larva that was laid the week before have now turned into adult moths and will climb up onto the sloth, and it will be repeated.
Huh.
And that's, keeping a constant population of moths that live on the sloth.
Wow.
And they are called the sloth moth, and that is the only place that they live in the whole world. There's a really long scientific name for those moths, but I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. But it is pretty cool how that works. So for them, it's, a little transportation to and from their breeding ground, and then the moss and algae that they are climbing through is also food for them. And so it also benefits the sloths, because when they turn around and groom themselves, they wake
Somebody
they will lick up a portion of those moths, and that serves to be their form of protein in the wild. They'll also eat a variety of small bugs and insects that are on the branches. That will be their protein. But not only that, but they lick up a portion of the moth's waste themselves, and that gives them the bacteria in their gut to be able to digest their food. So we digest our food through an enzymatic process, but they digest their food through a bacterial process. And if they don't have that bacteria colony, or they lose that bacteria colony, then that's really bad news for the sloth, and they can pass from that. So here in captivity, it kind of beckons the question, well, how do they get their healthy gut biome to be able to digest their food, because they don't have the moths? And that's because on day 3, when the sloth is just a little baby, she will climb up onto the mother's mouth and lick just the corners of her mouth from where she's eating her food. She'll mix it with the saliva that's in her mouth. And that, the bacteria that she has in her stomach and in her digestive tract is also in her esophagus and in her mouth. So that is the first bacteria that the baby is introduced to start that bacteria colony. And they will keep it throughout the rest of their life unless something stressful were to happen, like if food were to be withheld for several days, or if the temperature were to drop. So you can tell it's pretty warm in here. It stays this constant 78 degrees in here. So their sweet spot is 78 to 85 degrees. If it drops much below that, they can't maintain their own body temperature, so that will kill off the bacteria that's in their gut.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's pretty bad news for them.
You ready?
Switch over now?
Yeah, that's fine.
So, you take him, or you wanna sit here? Just
Yeah.
sit there, chair.
You can just stay right there. I'll transfer over.
Okay.
Hold on for a second. You guys can switch chairs.
Bye, baby.
He might swat you with his paw when he goes to hook onto my arm.
Hold up. Relax from the shirt there.
Got it. And you can kind of see if he'll do it this time when I go to transfer him over. When I go to put his back legs on you, his back legs will be completely attached to you, and his front legs will probably still be on me. They can rotate their spine 180 degrees. They have a lot of vertebrae in between their hips and shoulders.
That's crazy. See here, how he's so twisted?
So the two-toed sloths have the ability to rotate their spine in that manner, and the three-toed sloths have extra vertebrae in their cervical spine that allows their neck to turn 180 degrees. So that's a little bit of a difference between the two of them. also see how dilated their pupils are?
Yes.
And they stay like that all the time in dark and light areas. So their eyesight is really, really poor. They have what's called rod monochromacy, which means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. And the cone cells are what's responsible for giving the sensation of seeing color. So they are colorblind, and the rod cells is what's responsible for seeing motion. So they can see things moving in front of them really well. It's a little bit heightened, so even something just moving like this, it kind of startles them. And they also have really narrow vision, so it's essentially like if you were to cut both of their hands together and look through it like a telescope. So they can't see anything until it's right in front of them.
We had water going everywhere, which is what's called
Snail.
Oh, so sweet.
We call him our little belly baby because he stays pretty low like that and wraps around our torso. But Zoe, when you hold her later, she gets pretty snuggly and she'll curl up all the way up around close to your neck. She'll hook up here and have her little head up to your neck.
And then they have a two-person horse ride tomorrow. They want to upgrade from the 45 minutes to 60 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, just have her give me a call and I'll be in front of the computer and I'll get it all worked out for them. Okay, thank you very much. They
Can you
appreciate
tell
it.
a difference between the male and the female, like when they're out in the wild
And
or
then thank you for their
anything?
flexibility.
I don't think that, not that I know of as like a size difference comparison, there's not that big of a difference. But I'm sure anatomy wise, there's a way to tell, I've just not been told.
Yeah. And so will y'all's, are they neutered, or I don't know if that's not the word you use, but.
No, they're still intact, and so we don't have any plans yet to breed them or anything like that, so we're sure that we need some more experience with just having the, young babies and not the, newborn babies
Right.
before we decide to do anything like that. We'll put a lot of thought into it.
I wasn't fast enough.
I think sometimes he forgets how long his tongue is, and he'll sleep with it halfway out sometimes. Like, he cracks me up.
So when will he move over here, or will he move over here with them?
Yep, at a year old is when they come down here, so
Okay.
before they turn a year old, they stay the nights up at the main house, and in the evenings, they'll go up there, and then we'll bring them down here about midday until the evening time, just to get acclimated to being down here and having their encounters and everything. But since they have such a terrible, sense of vision, they can hear very well and they can smell very well. So they can't tell the difference between me or you by seeing us, but they can hear the difference. So he's still learning my voice just because I've not been here as long as everybody else. But the owner, John, in the mornings when he comes in, he doesn't even have to walk all the way into Flash's room. All he has to do is crack the door and go, "Hey, Flash," and Flash will start coming down real quick. And he doesn't do that for everybody. They do start to know everybody's voices, and they also know their names. So Dash, when he could be taking a nap here in his basket, he usually covers himself up with a towel. And we could be in here having a conversation, and as soon as we start talking about him and saying his name, he'll start to roll around and uncover himself and start to try to get up over the side of the basket to see if we're gonna come and get him. So both babies were that way.
Is it my time?
So relaxed, just sleep. Think about being a sloth all day, just doing nothing.
You talk about the life.
I know, right? Just sleeping. Being held and fed.
So I've seen those videos in the jungle or I don't know where, but they were crossing a street.
Mhm.
That's very rare, I would think.
Yeah, so most of the time, if you see a sloth on the ground, it's either because they have fallen out of the tree or they're looking to go find a mate. That's virtually the only time that you'll see them on the ground, so. Sometimes they'll fall, whether it be due to a miscalculated step. Sometimes they'll go to grab the branch and they have really poor eyesight and they'll grab onto their own leg and then they'll go tumbling to the floor. But a pretty cool thing about sloths is that they can survive a fall from up to 100 feet in the air. They are built like trucks on the inside. They have a total of 46 ribs, 23 sets of ribs, and so that's double what we have. And attached to all of those ribs is connective tissue that is interlinked between their organs and their intestines to keep everything securely in place. So they are suspended in the middle of their abdominal cavity, and they stay there even if they were to hit the floor of the rainforest. You know, if you think about us getting into a car accident, a lot of the damage that we can get internally is, you know, our body cavity. Was that a sneeze? But a lot of the internal damage that we can get is from our organs, like slamming into the front wall of our body cavity. But they don't have that issue because everything is so tightly adhered to the place that it's supposed to be. And they need that too, because when they're hanging upside down, if they oh, big yawn. If they're hanging upside down and trying to eat and everything, you know, if I were to try to do a handstand and eat, it's probably not gonna work out too well. But they have specific one-way valves that only go into their stomach. They don't have the ability to vomit or regurgitate their food in any manner. And it's the same way for their circulatory system. So their circulatory system is magically made just how it is supposed to be in the body. So, you know, when they're hanging all four limbs up in the air, if I was to hold my hand up like this for a long time, my hand's gonna fall asleep and all blood's gonna rush down.
Right.
But they have specific valves that can push the blood farther up into their limbs and harder up into their limbs to supply everything with the just right amount of blood, as well as not pull all to their head if they, you know, extend down and are hanging just by their back 2 feet.
Wow. God's pretty amazing.
He is.
Kind of have faces like a bear. Like if you look at it long enough.
A little bit. Bear's nose is long.
Yeah.
Some people say a bat, and I can kind of see it
a bat
with
too.
him because he's so dark.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times his arms will be bent a lot more like that. And I'm like, yeah, I can see it.
You can see it. Their eyes are like mouths. That's what it is.
But something kind of cool as well, I don't know if he's awake, but we have a little three-banded armadillo named Baku, and he is actually, armadillos and sloths are related. They're part of this super order called Zothorans, and Zothoran just means hinged spine. So the armadillos have the ability to curl up all the way into a ball, and the sloths do as well. Their spine can curl all the way up just like that. And sometimes I'll see Zoe and they're zonked out so hard that she's like curled all the way up into a ball in her little hammock, or she's like almost laying on her head because she's so curled up. And anteaters also have the ability to do that.
Oh, wow. Learned all sorts of new information today.
It's just the blank is so funny where they do the different eyes. Like, it's so cute.
He had a little speck of something in his eye the other day, and I was trying my hardest to help him get it out, but every time I would get it was like right in the corner of his eye too, and every time I'd get right there, he'd be like, close it down real hard, and I just could not get it out. I'm like, well, you're just gonna have to work it out yourself then, I don't know.
The way his eyes like extend, it's so funny. He's looking for something that's like,
And if something scares them, you know, we talked about their hearing being very good. If something, you know, if somebody were to open up that door and close it really quick and he weren't to be expecting it, his eyes get so big all of a sudden. He's like, oh no, I'm going to not make it.
You're gonna scare me.
Yeah. And something else kind of cool about them too, if you think about, for us to hang, you know, on a bar like that for a long period of time, we're we're not gonna be able to make it. They
Yeah.
spend their lives like that, upside down all the time. And for us, you know, to hang on and to hold the bar like that, it expels energy. It takes muscles and energy released in our body to make a fist like that and to hold all of our body weight up. But for them, and this is our relaxed state, to just be, you know, normal. But for them, clamped down like that and holding on.
Yes.
Holding on like that to the tree limb is natural. It takes no effort, no work for them to do that. And to actually extend those claws out to reach for the next branch, or to be reaching down for some food like Flash does all the time, that's what takes work, is for them to open up their claws like that. So it
Wow.
comes backwards for them, yeah.
Gracious.
Promise you guys are not hearing things, that is a little baby bird that's in that bucket.
Okay.
I was wondering
I
what
thought,
was
well, might be
you
outside,
know,
might be inside, I just, you know.
never know. Animals everywhere.
That's right. Somebody earlier was in here and he was chirping like that, and I was in the middle of talking too, so I couldn't just stop and tell him that there was a bird, and they were just like looking around like, am I crazy?
Do they have a soundtrack on?
Yeah.
Like, make you feel more inclusive.
At the horse barn up there, we have so many barn swallows, and the babies fall out of the nests so often, and so I'm trying to perfect my skills to raise a little bird, but it's not worked so far, so. This is the second one that I've had.
Aw.
The first one did not make it.
Oh.
But this one's a little bit bigger though, so I have
I
high
hope.
hopes.
I hope. Yeah. This is the one. Oh, thank you. That's your tongue.
Now, is he not doing bottle things or anything like that still?
No, he's completely
regular
weaned,
food.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's weaned from the mother.
Which that surprised me how old those kangaroos were, and that they
Still
still
doing the
bottle
bottles.
feed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they only do what, 2 bottles a day? She said. I was like, dang.
Do they eat other things like grass and whatever?
The
kangaroos?
Yeah, the kangaroos, yeah.
Yeah.
He
I
said
mean,
that.
they eat hay
I
and
w-
stuff
I
like
was-
that.
Enamored with
Yes.
The kangaroo. That's why they were walking around, digging around, trying to find.
I didn't know. I didn't know there was a duck in that thing until you showed me.
I was standing there watching the kangaroo interact with the duck. Just like, oh my gosh. Mom was like, there was a duck. Yeah.
Didn't see the duck.
And the turkey scared the crap out of me this
She
morning.
wasn't a fan.
I like birds and stuff, just not big birds.
Thomas is completely harmless, I can tell
Thomas?
you. Yes, he is a very, very friendly turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And he puffs up like that, makes himself look all scary, but he is just a little lover. I mean,
He just wants to look.
Yes. His goal, I mean, John will come up and he'll pick him up sometimes and just hold him.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, his face is all red and his snoot, that thing that's on top of his nose, it droops all the way down and it's filled with blood. But once John picks him up, everything that's red on his face will turn completely white. And that snoot that's all the way extended down will go up on top of his nose like a little unicorn horn. And that's because he can't show off anymore. He can't strut and make his,
Can't do
make
anything.
himself look big, so
Yeah.
he just, yeah.
It's pretty funny to watch.
Oh my gosh. The drama.
And we have to tell the people that lodge here, a lot of times they'll go down there and make s'mores at night and everything. And we have to tell them, Thomas will come down there and try to get you guys to give him food. You can give him graham crackers and things like that, but do not give him any marshmallows because he gets the marshmallows all over his face and it needs to be cleaned. So then we have a little, hellion running around with marshmallow all over his face for a week.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my gosh.
He is funny though. And he follows us everywhere. If he's up somewhere and there's nobody else, no other people around, he will follow us until he finds someone. So,
Somebody.
yes,
Oh.
yeah.
Pay
Somebody
attention
to
me.
puff up to.
Yeah.
Pay attention to me.
He came this morning, he was making noises, I was like, mm.
Yeah, he looks pretty intimidating, but he means no harm.
He's beautiful, he looks awesome. Oh, hello, buddy. I'm here.
Are you guys staying here or is you just coming down for the day?
Just for the day.
We're driving home after a
Oh,
while.
goodness.
I tried to talk her into going somewhere,
Yeah.
but she was like, nope, we're going home. I was like, we can go to Huntsville. We can go to the space station.
Okay.
We can go to Ruby Falls. She'd never seen Ruby Falls.
Yeah.
She's like, nope.
Okay.
I'm a homebody too, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
that time, we did go over just a little bit to catch up the time that we lost.
Oh, he said, he's like, I can hear you. It's fine. I know it's my time. I know it's time. I can go back in my basket.
He's like, excuse me.
Alright, bud. Well, that come on.
Go back in your basket.
We always cover him back up afterwards too, to try to keep the humidity in there.
Gotcha.
And he also likes to try hot dogs. Alright, we'll head out here and hit the hand sanitizer one more time.